Samritya. Sorry, I should give the verse number 76. Chapter 18, verse 76. Sorry about that. Rajan Sansmritya Samvadamimam Adbhutam Keshavarjunayo Punyam Hrishyami cha muhu muhu. Go ahead. Rajan Sansmritya Samvadamimam Adbhutam Keshavarjunayo Punyam Hrishyami cha muhurmuhu.
Rajan Samsmritya
Sammadimam Keshavarjunayo Punyam Hrishyami cha muhurmuhu. Rajan Samsmritya Keshavarjunayo Punyam Hrishyami cha muhurmuhu. Rajan Samsmritya Samvadamimam Adbhutam Keshavarjunayo Punyam Hrishyami cha muhurmuhu. Rajan Samsmritya Samvadamimam Adbhutam Keshavarjunayo Punyam Hrishyami cha muhurmuhu. Raja, king. Sansamritya, remembering. Sansamritya, remembering. Samvada, message. Imam, this. Adbhutam, wonderful. Keshava, O Lord Krishna. Arjunayo, and Arjun. Punyam, pious. Hrishyami, I am taking pleasure. Cha, also. Muhu, repeatedly. O King, as I repeatedly recall the wondrous and holy dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, I take pleasure being thrilled at every moment. Please repeat. O King, as I repeatedly recall this wondrous and holy dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, I take pleasure being thrilled at every moment. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The understanding of Bhagavad Gita is so transcendental that anyone who becomes conversant with the topics of Arjuna and Krishna becomes righteous, and he cannot forget such talks. This is the transcendental position of spiritual life. In other words, one who hears the Gita from the right source directly from Krishna attains full Krishna consciousness. The result of Krishna consciousness is that one becomes increasingly enlightened and he enjoys life with a thrill, not only for some time but every moment. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Hare Krishna. I'm not going to be able to do this in the middle of the lecture, so I might as well do it now. Ask everybody to come forward because there's devotees coming and they would not want to cross over you to come to the front. Come forward. Because you are first, you set the example. Mataji is also. Come. That's good, that's good. Oh. Off to the side, Prabhuji. We know you have a beautifully shaven head, but cameraman would like to focus on something else. Thank you. So, this Bhagavad Gita, as it is ending now, the last chapter is also known as conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita, and the last few verses of the Bhagavad Gita are also known as the concluding verses, conclusion of the conclusion. So, as you see in many different scriptures, the person who starts to speak a particular scripture ends also. So the first verse in the Bhagavad Gita is spoken by Sanjaya. Sanjaya Uvacha. So similarly, these last four verses are also spoken by Sanjaya. 74, 75, 76, 77, 78. That's 5. 74, 75, 76, 78. 4 verses. So, in one way, it is Sanjaya who is the speaker of the Bhagavad Gita, because he is the one who is narrating to us, to the rest of us, because we were not there at the battle of Kurukshetra. Nobody else could hear what was being discussed. But Sanjaya had that power to be able to focus in on what was happening in the battlefield. And of course, it was a little bit of a, you can say, cheating by Maharishi Vedvyas. He wanted that. That's why he gave Sanjaya the divine vision. How would I get the Bhagavad Gita? Srila Vedvyas knew that the Bhagavad Gita is going to be spoken at the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and it's no place for him to be. So he cannot say, I heard it. But he wanted to put it inside the Mahabharata. The Bhagavad Gita is inside the big scripture called Mahabharata, over 100,000 verses. And Bhagavad Gita is right in between. Srila Prabhupada called it like a pearl inside one of those, what do you call those where the pearls are found? Shell? Oyster, yes. The pearl inside the oyster. The oyster, the whole Mahabharata is like an oyster, and the pearl inside the oyster is the Bhagavad Gita, the 700 verses. So, most of these 700 verses are, of course, spoken by Lord Krishna himself, more than 650 of them. And then the second major speaker of the Bhagavad Gita is Arjuna, but at the 73rd verse, he is signing off. In the 73rd verse, he says, My dear Krishna, O infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy. I am now firm and free from doubt, and am prepared to act according to your instructions. These are the concluding verses by Arjuna, and that's exactly what Krishna wanted to hear. So that's why he spoke the Bhagavad Gita, and he was successful. So then, to wrap up this whole scripture in itself, Sanjaya speaks the last 4 verses, out of which we're covering the second one. The point he is making, Sanjaya, in this translation, is that he's trying to indicate that this is not what I have just narrated to you, Dhritarashtra, is not just a conversation, and it's not just for now. This is for the time to come, time immemorial. This is not like, how many conversations do we know that are so popular as the Bhagavad Gita? It's probably the most popular conversation that ever took place. So before concluding, signing off, Sanjaya is trying to express that this is the most wonderful thing, and repeatedly, I am taking pleasure, I am being thrilled every moment as I recall this wondrous holy dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. And Srila Prabhupada takes it further in the purport by saying, the understanding of the Bhagavad Gita is so transcendental that anyone who becomes conversant with the topic of Arjuna and Krishna becomes righteous and cannot forget such talks. Fortunately or unfortunately, in India, where most people know that there is a Bhagavad Gita and know somewhat of the importance of the Bhagavad Gita, only like to pick it up when somebody leaves their body. That day, everybody is looking for a Bhagavad Gita. Oh, where is the Bhagavad Gita? Well, where was the Bhagavad Gita when this person was alive? That was the time to discuss the Bhagavad Gita with him or to understand the Bhagavad Gita and so on. It's just too late. Like once a person leaves their body, then they would go to donate a cow. This person so and so is Swargavasi now. Although we know he's 100% gone to hell. But we call him Swargavasi. Everybody is Swargavasi. Even if we know there is no way he's going to Swarg, we call him Swargavasi. And now he should donate a cow. How's that going to help? The cow has to be donated in a person's life. And a cow's life is much, much smaller than ours. The cow has to leave its body before you do, the cow donor. Say, according to the Vedic injunction, in order for somebody to go to Swarga, not that the devotees are trying that, but in order for somebody to go to Swargaloka, you have to cross a river. What is that river called? Vaitarni. Vaitarni. The Vaitarni, what is flowing in the Vaitarni? Blood, stool, pus. It's ugly. The description of Vaitarni, ugly. And it's deep. And one cannot cross it. The cows can. The cows can cross it with no difficulty because the cows have been blessed, is a blessed species to be able to cross the Vaitarni river like anything. We don't have to worry about crossing the Vaitarni because we're not going to the other side of the Vaitarni. Or not that we're not going, we're not trying that. We're trying to cross another river. What is that river? Virja. We're trying to cross Virja. But the cow donation, nevertheless, is not such a bad idea. But the cow has to leave her body before you do. Then that cow would be indebted enough to you that she would go to the side of this side of Vaitarni and wait for you to leave your body in your sweet time. And then you get there and you find that cow waiting for you. And then you grab hold of her tail and she's going to take you across. That is the system, according to the Vedas. That's why people donate a cow. Meaning the Karam-kanda system of donating a cow. Of course, there are spiritual benefits of donating a cow as well. But most people are not donating a cow because they want spiritual benefit. They want to cross the Vaitarni and go to Swarglok, is what they think is the best place to go. Even better than America. So, doing something like reading the Bhagavad Gita after a person has left their body is somewhat like that, but at the same time, those who are left, they need peace also. It is not just the shanti, shanti, shanti for the person who's left their body. It's also shanti, shanti, shanti for everybody who's left behind, the rest of us. So the major consideration is the person who just left their body. Bhagwan iski atma ko shanti de. May God give peace to his departed soul. But the rest of us also need that peace. So we should be discussing the Bhagavad Gita like we are discussing in this room. We're not preparing to leave our body tonight, are we? But who knows? No guarantees. So that day could come tomorrow. We're already studying the Bhagavad Gita. That is the way to study the Bhagavad Gita. So Srila Prabhupada is saying here that one who becomes conversant with the topics of Arjuna and Krishna becomes righteous, and he cannot forget such talks. How does that help? It helps bring us peace at the time that we're leaving this body. I tell you a real story. This person that's my wife, by the way, Chandramukhi. Chandramukhi and her mother lived in an apartment building before she met me, and they had a neighbor, very, very old gentleman, retired 10 years ago or something, and he used to drive a cab, and sometimes if they need to go somewhere, he would take them. But he was still like very strong physically, and knew that I'm not dying anytime soon. But another 10 years passed by or more after Chandramukhi and I got married. And this person was still our family friend. He came to our children's birthdays, and he had nobody. All the rest of his family was in Norway. And so we celebrated his birthday as well, and our anniversary, and whatever little we did, just say, Carl, come over. We're having, such and such. So he really liked prasadam. He was very fond of halwa, and he was especially fond of the leftovers. So he packed the leftovers. And so he knew that I'm going to a party, there's going to be leftovers, and I'm going to be packing those leftovers and bringing them home. So he was very happy with that. But as he grew older, he started becoming very afraid of death. The taxi company won't allow him to drive the taxi anymore. Close to 79 or something, they said, no, really, you shouldn't be. So now he has not very much to do, and he was very afraid. I never thought of it, but I kind of usually talk to him. I used to talk to him a little bit about life after death, or understanding what life is. But he wasn't really so keen. He would kind of fall asleep. I couldn't tell him very much. But my wife thought that it would be a good idea to give Carl a Bhagavad Gita. And she did. And then she would call him periodically and check up on him. After she checked up on him several times, he actually picked it up and started reading it. So next time we invited him to come to the Rath Yatra. Now I am used to of seeing a very sad Carl. He used to look very sad. He was happy to see me, but he still wouldn't give me a full smile. But this time at the Rath Yatra, after the Rath Yatra, I found him sitting on the side. He probably was in the Rath Yatra, but we never met. How many people can you meet in the Rath Yatra? Hari Bol, Mother Lakshmi. So I went and approached Carl, and his smile is like all the way, like McDonald or something. So I got curious. I said, Carl, how you doing? You're looking very happy. I said, yeah, I'm happy. I said, what happened? How come you're so happy? He said, I read that book, the Bhagavad Gita, and I'm not afraid of death anymore. After I leave this old useless body, I'm going to get a brand new fresh one. He's trying to sell me on that idea now. Well, I said, wow, this is real transformation. Like there is nothing I could tell him, because although he had a little bit of respect for me, but he was like more than double my age. He really did not think that he should listen to me. He's seen so much more life than I have, I'm just a young lad. But when I was 25, we were both 25 and he was already 74. So that's like 3 times the age at that time. But of course we were catching on. He wasn't 3 times as old when we were 45 or something. So I started thinking, yeah, that's a really good idea that Chandramukhi gave him the Bhagavad Gita. And I came and congratulated Chandramukhi and thanked her, and she said, yeah, I didn't just give him the Bhagavad Gita, I had to call him 6 times at least to remind him to read it. And now that he has read it, he is just thrilled. He's not afraid. Right away he became he started following 4 regulative principles. Right away he picked up the beads, and like he wouldn't even start counting before finishing 16 rounds. He would only count in 16s. 16 in the morning, 16 in the afternoon, 16 in the evening, like that, and sometimes 16 at night. So that's how he was chanting. And he was becoming more and more fearless, and becoming more and more absorbed in the holy name at that late stage of life. How did that happen? Bhagavad Gita. Directly, Srila Prabhupada preached to him, which I couldn't do, she couldn't do. He wouldn't listen to anyone. It is so hard to get anybody in the Western body to listen to anyone. Please, no offense. The Indians are not very easy these days either. So, real close experience of what Srila Prabhupada is mentioning in this purport. This is the transcendental position of spiritual life. Again, same thing, meaning what we have already explained. In other words, one who hears the Gita from the right source. Srila Prabhupada again brings that matter up. The first verse, the purport of the first verse, Srila Prabhupada mentions something like hearing the Bhagavad Gita from the right source. And in between, several times, he brings that up over and over again from the right source. I have a personal experience of that I can share with you. My father, when he was 8, his mother passed away while trying to give birth to one of his siblings. So he ended up with 4 younger siblings and a father and no mother. And same thing happened, that everybody in the neighborhood is saying, okay, let's find the Bhagavad Gita and let's read the Bhagavad Gita. But my grandfather got so attached to hearing the Bhagavad Gita, and he found so much peace in the Bhagavad Gita. This is before India's independence, in the 30s. 30s, yeah. There was no Bhagavad Gita in this country. One Bhagavad Gita published by Gita Press, and Sanskrit only. No translation. Then later, several years later, they published one with a translation in Sanskrit. Sanskrit translated into Sanskrit. And then they made one that was Sanskrit translated into, because this is a song. Bhagavad Gita is a song. So you can explain it in the same language over again. So it made sense. And a lot of people, that Sanskrit translation was much better than reading just the Sanskrit. But the rest of us, Sanskrit is still Sanskrit. So my father did not have any translation. And his father got attached to hearing the Bhagavad Gita so much that the Bhagavad Gita is supposed to be read for 13 days. That's it. But my grandfather said, no, 13 days or whatever. I want to hear this Bhagavad Gita every day in its entirety before you are allowed to go to school. So my father had to read the whole Bhagavad Gita in Sanskrit to his father every day. So he needed the book for about 90 days. After that, he didn't need the book. Without the book, he's reciting the whole 700 verses. And going through so much and so many times, he kind of formed a meaning of what Krishna is trying to say in his mind. And every time the Gita Press published another version, he would buy it. The Sanskrit translated into Sanskrit, he bought it. But he did not agree. Put it away. Sanskrit translated into Hindi, bought it again, did not agree. Then other people started to write the Bhagavad Gita. Now, after independence, other people started to write. Take the Bhagavad Gita text and either give their own translation or give translation and purport of their own. And every time my father found a new publication of Bhagavad Gita, he would purchase it. And he had a bookshelf like that, not like that one, like this one. 32 Bhagavad Gitas by the time he got to like 50 years of age. 32 different Bhagavad Gitas written by different people. He didn't agree with anyone. He was not able to convince himself that any of these Bhagavad Gitas is actually giving the meaning that he thinks in his own mind that Krishna is trying to say. He did not consider himself a Sanskrit scholar or Sanskrit expert, although he knew Sanskrit enough to run a regular conversation. At that time, Sanskrit was popular among the scholarly people. So, like these days in India, you have to be able to speak English, otherwise, you would be looked upon as you're some kind of illiterate person. Those days, you have to be able to run some kind of a conversation in Sanskrit before you would be, if you don't, you're in the illiterate line. So, and they studied Sanskrit. Not everything was Sanskrit medium, but Sanskrit was a language as a second language. But he still did not consider himself to be any kind of authority, anything he could say to anyone who has. He was absolutely disgusted with the Mahatma Gandhi's Bhagavad Gita. He was absolutely disgusted with that. That this is like seems to be going so far away from what Krishna is trying to say. Although he was an authority on chemistry, he was a gold medalist, he was professor, he was head of the department, next person to be the principal, and he wrote journals on chemistry, and his journals were published and went all the way to Oxford in the 60s. Whatever he wrote was published and with his name on it, and a copy of that went to all major universities in the world, including Oxford. I say Oxford because somebody came back in the 80s and confirmed to us that my father's journals are still in the Oxford University. But others, I don't know where else it went, but those journals went. British system of education was still going on in India. So according to that, they were kind of distributing their knowledge. So, although being an authority on chemistry, he did not think he was an authority on Bhagavad Gita or Sanskrit or any such thing. So he was just seeking, looking. And somebody brought this Bhagavad Gita to him in English, as it is. And right away, he wanted to grab it. And the devotee told him, no, you can't buy the Bhagavad Gita. I'm selling the whole set of books. My father said, I cannot carry this. I'm not, in India people are not used to of carrying it. They have servants to carry. I cannot carry, my servant is not with me. The devotee said, we will send them to your home. Just give me your address. So, my father gave the office address that somebody will come during the day, I will not be at home. So send somebody to my office. And this person comes, a devotee who is still known to us. And he brings in a life membership form. Here, you fill one of these out. And the whole set of books is still here. And we will give this to you for free. You don't have to buy it. You just become our member. That's all. So, my father said, yes, I will become your member. You're publishing such nice books. Like, he hasn't even opened it. He's just seen the outside of the books. And he's so happy and impressed that somebody's done such a wonderful job. Because those days, the Gita press, Bhagavad Gitas, these days they look pretty good. But those days, they look not so business-like. So, he became a life member and he brought the book home, all the books, because he had a servant. But when he came home, after dinner, he crashed into his bed with the Bhagavad Gita. And the whole night, he read the Bhagavad Gita from cover to cover. The whole night. He did not sleep. He finished the Bhagavad Gita. And then in the morning he declared, this is the Bhagavad Gita that gives the meaning of the Sanskrit text that I always thought in my own mind that Krishna was trying to say. This is the Bhagavad Gita that I have been looking for virtually all my life, because he became fond of Bhagavad Gita at 8. Who becomes fond of Bhagavad Gita at 8? He became fond of Bhagavad Gita at 8. So at 50, it's just about his whole life. So I've been looking for this, for somebody to confirm the meaning of the Bhagavad Gita, that I think what the Bhagavad Gita says. Almost he was thinking of compiling his own translation, that I think this is the right translation. But he said, looking at I don't have to do it. It's done. And then he found the picture of Srila Prabhupada on our Bhagavad Gita that we had. The picture of Srila Prabhupada was not that small, it was like that big, it was quarter the page. And he looked at that and he read all the things, and like he didn't leave any word unread on, including the covers and the introduction. And then he went through the list of centers, and luckily we lived a walking distance away. Not a short walking distance, but like you could walk from here to Loi Bazaar. In the morning, it's not such a bad walk going up to Loi Bazaar. So the temple in Greater Kailash at that time was that far. So he got ready about 8:30 or so and started walking, and it was 9 o'clock. He got to the temple, and the devotees had finished the Bhagavatam class there and had gone upstairs in the Prasadam hall to have Prasadam, and he found Srila Prabhupada sitting on the Vyasasana. And he just sat in the lotus feet, waiting that Srila Prabhupada would acknowledge that there was a person in the room and will speak to him. And he was waiting and waiting and waiting and patient that Srila Prabhupada is in some kind of meditation. I am in no rush. When he acknowledges me, when he sees me, when he talks to me, then I will talk to him. I will not disturb him. Srila Prabhupada's Murti confuses people today. I am talking 1979. Nobody has ever heard of a Murti like this. It is really real. I mean, we don't realize it. How many people still get bewildered? Oh, I meet people. Oh, we've been to your Vrindavan temple. Yeah, we saw your guru. He was sitting there. They have come and gone thinking Srila Prabhupada was sitting here. Not that, they're not talking about a Murti at all. No, he was sitting there. I saw him. One time I was trying to show somebody a book, and he saw the back of the book and Srila Prabhupada. I met this person. When? Just last year. This is 1985. You met Srila Prabhupada in 84? Yeah. He's right there in Vrindavan temple. When I went there, he was sitting right on the Vyasasana. I saw him. So yes, I'm not going to argue with you. Yes, you saw him. And in a way, Srila Prabhupada is there. So, after about half an hour of waiting, devotees started to come down. And one or two devotees noticed that my father was sitting in the temple room. So they went and inquired, how may we help you, and this, that. And when they tried to talk to him, he shoot them off. Don't disturb me. And now they're understanding what is going on here. And these are young bhaktas, and they didn't want to really bother with my father. So they went up and sent Loknath Swami down. So Loknath Swami came and he talked to my father. And he said, come, you can touch his feet. So my father touched his feet. Loknath Swami touched his feet first. Look, you touch. And when my father touched the feet, he realized this is Srila Prabhupada is not there. Anyway, he's there, but not in the way that he was expecting, that Srila Prabhupada would talk to him. And he spent a few minutes with the devotees and he came home. And he cried and cried and cried. Nobody in our whole household had ever seen him cry. He just never cried. Not even coming close to crying. And that day he cried. And he wouldn't even talk. 2 hours later, he told my mother, I missed him. Because he had found out that Srila Prabhupada just left in November 77. And this is like early part of 79. I missed him. And he was also told that the temple was in Lajpat Nagar, and at that time we also lived in Lajpat Nagar before. And then when the temple moved to Greater Kailash, we also moved to Greater Kailash, and we still did not find each other, because to get my father interested in a Bhagavad Gita is like easier than piece of cake. He was looking. So I am giving all this life experience from reading Srila Prabhupada's purport, that the transcendental position of spiritual life, in other words, one who hears the Bhagavad Gita from the right source. The 32 Bhagavad Gitas that my father had no impact on him. 32 Bhagavad Gitas. A person who had 700 verses of the Bhagavad Gita memorized had no impact on him. But when the Bhagavad Gita came from the right source, right away, I think that's all the time we had for today. If there is any quick questions or comments, we can take.
I'd like to ask a question.
Question, yes. Is there a question, Mike?
Thank you very much, Raj. Now I understand why I use it in here. Yeah. The question is, your father had 32 editions of Bhagavad Gita, but none could inspire him, other than the one by Srila Prabhupada. And as you said, it should come from the right source. But today we see there is sort of deviation. People are reading all kinds of literature and are getting inspired and are even following it. So they are not coming from the right source. So why does this happen? You know, with one who was probably a sincere seeker, could get inspired and took up the teachings sincerely, right? And then we see someone who's also a very, very sincere seeker, takes up teachings and gets misdirected. Why do you think this happens?
Well, first of all, getting inspired to do the right thing is the inspiration. Getting inspired to do, for a lack of better word, nonsense is not an inspiration. It's nonsense. Nonsense breeding more nonsense. That's what it is. There are so many other institutions, I know. They're not based on the Shastra at all. And they seem to be flourishing as well. But really, in what? What they are teaching or learning, is it going to give them any kind of spiritual advancement? Maybe Bhavunam Janmanam Ante, they're going through their steps, which is admirable. They're better than karmis. They're better than somebody who follows nothing. Just a religious person not eating meat, fish and eggs, I think is much better than a regular karmi who seems to think that I have a right to eat anything that moves and that doesn't move. So even that much understanding is better than coming to the level of understanding four regulative principles, then coming to an understanding that the religion is actually different than spirituality. Spirituality and religion are two different things, is not one and the same. And then further coming to an understanding that I want to make some kind of, I want to rise above the sleeping, eating, sleeping, mating and defending. So at least all these institutions, most of the ones I know, at least they are rising people above that. Because those who are just thinking that eating, sleeping, mating and defending is going to make my life perfect, they are living animal life, not using their intelligence at all. So at least some kind of, Srila Prabhupada calls them several places, transcendentalist, meaning the person who wants to rise above eating, sleeping, mating and defending, is better than the regular karmi or who hasn't even come to that understanding yet. So maybe this life they will follow this, and next life, our mission is going on for next 10,000 years. People have to graduate. Srila Prabhupada has brought so many devotees right above, like we discussed the last time, Mother Parvati may remember, we discussed the last time that Srila Prabhupada has made devotees jump from here to there, bringing them right into Krishna consciousness, may or may not have any background of going through all this process and going through the yoga ladder system, but others are going through the yoga ladder system. And one day they will come to an understanding that spirituality is something else. Yes.
Just one quick quibble here. My mother-in-law, who the family is the South Indian Iyengars, she had a neighbor. So when anybody would mention to any of these other kind of religionists, she would say, "Well, it's better than going to the movies."
Yeah, she's right. Because that's what is becoming the religion of today. Everybody wants to relate with the Bollywood and the Hollywood because they got nothing better. They don't see anything better. They have to connect, hang on to, have a sense of belonging somewhere, so they are connecting with that. I see organizations who used to invite us or some other religious people to their gatherings, and now that is going down lower, and Bollywood presence in their gatherings or their festivals is going higher for some reason, because they are thinking that Bollywood is more universal and the teachings of any kind of religion are more for one sect. So why don't we do something universal that everybody can relate to? And that's Bollywood. So that's how it is. You have a wise mother-in-law. Better than going to the movies. Sorry?
She was very open-minded, and nothing ever. I never ever saw her get angry.
Yeah, must be educated.
I mean, she had like 9 children, and she's deceased now.
Yeah, of course.
But she would get up 4 o'clock in the morning and recite Vishnu Sahasranam every day. So my husband learned Vishnu Sahasranam because he would get up with his mommy, and then they would have coffee. Because coffee is for Brahmanas, tea is for Sudras.
Thank you.
She always lived next to a temple. They wouldn't live anywhere unless it was next to a temple. I mean, that was the culture. This is Madras.
Yes.
Culture, no?
You feel uncomfortable if it's too far from the temple. As close to the temple as possible to feel comfortable, peace. I know many people like that. Thank you, Mother Parvati. Any other questions? Last call? Question or comment? Mother Lakshmi Moni, would you like to comment? Mother Lakshmi Moni is just about the senior most person here, so I... Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki.